Hey there, welcome. You found your way to a cozy corner of the internet where stories unfold slowly, gently, just enough to let your mind wander and drift. For the next hour, I'll be reading a collection of Reddit stories. Real, raw, sometimes funny, sometimes emotional, but always soothing. There's nothing you need to do right now, no decisions to make, no tasks to finish. Just settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let these stories carry you into sleep. Or at least a peaceful state of rest. So take a deep breath and let's begin. So I, 30F, have been running a small but tight-knit book club in my neighborhood for the past 5 years. When I moved into our row of Victorian townhouses, I put up a sign in the lobby inviting neighbors who loved reading to join me for monthly discussions. And within 2 months we had 8 regulars. We'd gather in turn, 1 month at my house next at Carlos's loft down the street, then at Priya's sunny third-floor apartment. We shared coffee and snacks, swapped rare editions, and forged friendships that felt more like family. 2 years. To us, we formalized our little circle as the Rittenhouse Readers, set a modest annual fee for snacks and communal book purchases, and even convinced our local library to sponsor a guest author event each spring. About 6 months ago, my longtime friend J, 32F, moved in with her boyfriend T, 29M, into the townhouse right next to mine. Jay and I have been inseparable since college. We majored in literature together, rented tiny apartments stuffed with well-thumbed paperbacks, and commiserated over flat tire repairs and bad dates. So when she asked if she could join our book club, I was thrilled, and I naturally assumed she'd slot right in. T, a software engineer who'd never been much of a reader, politely attended our spring guest author night, but mostly sat in a corner tapping away on his laptop, nursing a beer. I thought nothing of it. Then last month I found out T had quietly started hosting his own competing book club for people who hate formalities. He'd plastered flyers under the Rittenhouse Readers posters in the lobby, bright neon, flyers promising no fees, no rules, no pretentiousness, and he'd invited everyone in our club to drop by whenever you want for a cold one and a chat. I was stunned. He'd never asked me if he could use the building common room on the same night. He'd assumed that because Jay was my friend, he had a free pass. I confronted Jay that evening over coffee. She shrugged and said, "He's just trying to make friends. People complained our club was too stuffy. I told him it'd be fine." I reminded her that we'd agreed any official meetings, all 8 of us, should rotate hosting duties, and that splitting the group in 2 would fracture the community. She rolled her eyes. "It's just a fun thing. You're taking it too. Seriously." Meanwhile, T's meetings quickly gained traction. 2 of our regulars, Maria and Ben, told me they'd started attending because they loved the relaxed vibe. BIOB, bring your own chair, no assigned chapters, everyone read whatever. They liked and brought random fun facts to share. They loathed the formal discussion questions I'd crafted, which I thought encouraged deeper analysis. Suddenly, at our next official meeting, hosted at Carlos's place, only 5 of our 8 showed up. And one of those, Priya, admitted she'd skipped our club because she didn't want to feel judged for not finishing the month's novel on time. That stung. I pride myself on creating an inclusive environment. I'd always reminded everyone there were no wrong takes, encouraged unfinished reads, and tolerated off-topic tangents, even if they ran on for half an hour. Yet somehow, T's lounge chairs and lager model felt more appealing, an ironic twist I never saw coming. When I raised this at the meeting, suggesting perhaps we could incorporate a casual night once a quarter, T chimed in by video call from his laptop propped on the mantel. He said, "I think you guys could lighten up. If you loosen up the rules, I can share my stream of consciousness reading lists too." I told him that was precisely what our club already did, but he disagreed and said we needed to shake off the elitist vibe. Some members nodded, others looked uncomfortable. Carlos said we shouldn't be beholden to the old format if it excluded people. I countered that changing our charter unilaterally would betray the spirit of rotation and shared leadership we'd all agreed on. By month's end, T had unofficially absorbed 3 of our 8 members into his fledgling group. Our refreshments, fun took a hit because fewer people were contributing, and the regional book festival sponsorship was at risk. Our library liaison had overheard members planning to attend T's events instead. I tried talking to T directly. Please, this isn't a competition. We started this together for community, not to see who can recruit more people. He leaned back in his chair that night, flashed a grin and said, "Whatever you need to feel better, boss lady, but some of us want a looser vibe." I was furious. I messaged Jay, "Why can't you tell him to stop undermining us?" She texted back, "Because you told me to stay out of your drama. If you can't handle a little competition, that's on you." That cut deep. I thought friends had each other's backs. I felt betrayed by Jay's silence and T's aggressiveness, both straining my trust in our friendship and in the club. So I did something drastic. I called an emergency meeting at my place, invited all current Rittenhouse Readers members, and laid out the facts that T had been soliciting members, misusing our sponsorship, and hosting disruptive events on nights. When our group was scheduled, I proposed a vote to enforce a building policy. No personal flyers in the lobby, no booking the common room on our official night without rotation, and strict adherence to our charter. We'd even drafted an amendment. Any spin-off group needed explicit consent of all 8 founding members. At the meeting, T showed up unannounced, carrying a 6-pack of craft beer, grinning like he'd just won a football game. Jay sat beside him, arms crossed. When I explained the new rules, T laughed. "Sounds like someone's trying to keep all the fun to herself. Why don't you let people choose where they feel most welcome?" Several members shifted uncomfortably. 2 sided with me, Carlos and Maria, saying we needed fairness. Ben spoke up for T. "I like that it's chill. I don't want quizzes or snack money." Priya said she'd support whichever group made her feel more at home. The vote split. Tia. We invoked our tiebreaker, mine as chair. But I hesitated, feeling the weight of the decision. Punt, flip a coin, or refuse to do anything. I announced I'd postpone and hoped we could discuss further. The tension was thick. T smirked. Jay looked hurt. Half the group left without dessert, and I felt tears welling up. Since then, the club has been in limbo. Some nights I find T hosting a casual meetup that 5 of our members attend. Other nights, my official meeting has dwindled to 3. Me, Carlos, and 1 friend. We haven't been to the regional festival because the sponsorship fell through, and no one's eager to organize author talks. My landlord complained about torn-down flyers and noise complaints when T's group got rowdy at 11 p.m. The building's common room now sits quiet on our night, waiting. I've been sleeping poorly, dreading another confrontation. I've tried reaching out to Jay to salvage our friendship, but she avoids me or replies tersely. I miss the late-night chats about existential themes, the collective gasp at plot twists, the impromptu potlucks. I've considered dissolving Rittenhouse Readers entirely rather than have it fracture, but I can't bear to let it die. Yet every time I open my email, there's another RSVP to T's drop-in book lounge, another message from a member who prefers a more relaxed vibe, and another reminder that the community we built is splintering. So here I am, asking, you read it. Am I the a-hole for trying to enforce our original charter and rotation rules, even though it's driving away members, calling an emergency meeting and drafting a lockdown amendment without T's consent, hesitating on the tiebreaker, then stalling the vote to buy time, effectively leaving the club leaderless, even wanting to keep Rittenhouse Readers alive at all, when a looser model seems to be what people want? I never wanted this to become a power struggle, but I also can't watch my community created from scratch be co-opted by my roommates. Flashy no-rules party. Have I become the pretentious control freak who cares more about bylaws than friendships? Or are T and J selfishly hijacking something they only casually joined? Am I the a-hole? So I, 28F, married my husband David on 34M 3 years ago after dating for 4. I thought we had a really solid foundation. Nothing extravagant, but we were a team. We're both teachers, we live in a modest home, we adopted a rescue dog, and we'd been trying for a baby for the past year. Everything seemed simple, stable, honest, or at least I thought so. What I didn't expect was for our entire life, our marriage, our home, and literally everything I trusted, to crack open because of a Tupperware container. I wish I was joking. Let me back up. I've always been the more organized one in our relationship. I cook, meal prep, keep track of appointments, you name it. David's more spontaneous, disorganized, easily distracted, and sometimes kind of impulsive. That was always something I chalked up to personality differences. So when he came home 2 months ago with a random green Tupperware full of pasta salad, he said a co-worker's wife made too much and sent him home with some. I didn't think much of it. He left it in the fridge for days and never touched it. After about a week, I asked him if he was planning to eat it, and he mumbled something about forgetting. So I threw it away and washed the container. That night, David got home from work and went to the fridge, then immediately tensed. He opened the fridge, closed it, opened it again like something would suddenly appear. Then he turned to me and asked, "Where's the pasta?" I told him I tossed it because it had been sitting for a week and had gone bad. He stared at me, just stared, then muttered, "I needed that." I asked him what he meant and he wouldn't explain, just shook his head and walked away. I tried asking again, but he shut down and said he was tired. That night he slept on the couch, saying he had a headache. I thought it was just one of those weird moody spells he sometimes got when he was overwhelmed from work. But over the next few days, things got weird. He started taking longer showers, like suspiciously long. He set up a passcode on his phone when he'd never had one before. He got unusually defensive when I walked behind him at his laptop. And I'm not proud of this next part, but a week after the Tupperware incident, I snooped. I waited until he was in the shower and opened his phone. He'd used a passcode, but I figured it out, his mom's birthday. And I wish I hadn't. There was an entire text thread with someone saved under the name Greg Work. Except Greg was very much not a Greg. She was a woman, and their texts were explicit, raunchy, emotional. Some messages were just walls of, "I miss you. I love you more than her." And, here's where I almost puked, "Can't wait to hold you again like I did in the back of your car last Thursday." I scrolled further and saw pictures. Hers, his, them in a hotel room I didn't recognize. Then a voice memo from David. "I know it's hard. I'll figure out a way to talk to her. I promise. I just need her to stop touching my stuff. It's like she's always watching." I couldn't breathe. I felt like my entire chest had caved in. He was cheating. He'd been cheating for months. The Tupperware wasn't just pasta. It was a gift from her. That was why he freaked out. That container was from their life, their relationship, and I unknowingly threw it in the trash. I didn't say anything right away. I waited, observed, collected. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered everything: screenshots, photos, text logs, receipts from hotels, even a weird Amazon order history tied to his account, where he'd shipped lingerie to work. It never showed up at home, that's for sure. I spoke to a divorce lawyer discreetly, and I didn't confront him yet. Then I did something I know some people are going to judge me for. I reached out to her. She was the last number on his call log, and I figured out her name from a tagged photo on Facebook he thought I couldn't see. She had tagged him in a pic months ago and deleted it within minutes, but I caught the notification. Her name was Rachel, 31F, and when I messaged her, she replied instantly. She didn't know he was married. He told her we were basically separated and staying together for appearances. I asked if she had ever been to our house. She had, twice. When I was supposedly away visiting my sister, a lie David had told her, I hadn't gone anywhere, Rachel was horrified. She cried on the phone with me. She showed me texts where David said things like, "She's controlling," and "We haven't had sex in months." Lies. We'd been intimate the week before I found the container. I don't even know how he managed it, lying to both of us. So finally, I confronted him. I laid out the screenshots, the texts, the hotel bookings, and I watched him go pale. He didn't deny it. He just sat there staring at the floor. I asked him, "Why?" And he said, "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely. You've been so focused on the baby, on schedules, on plans. She made me feel wanted." I stared at him. "So you lied to her too?" He shook his head and whispered, "I didn't think it would get this far." I kicked him out that same night. He tried crying, begging, said we could go to therapy, that he'd end things with Rachel, but I told him he already had. Rachel had blocked him after our conversation. I told him there was no we left to fix. He moved in with a friend. I called his parents, they're very close with me, and told them everything. His mom cried, his dad said, "Jesus Christ, David," and hung up. That was 6 weeks ago. I filed for divorce. Rachel and I still talk sometimes. Trauma bonding, I guess. She's been in therapy trying to recover from what she thought was a legitimate relationship. I've been staying with my sister for a while, trying to rebuild some sense of self. The thing is, some of my friends are saying I was cold for kicking him out without trying to salvage anything. That I didn't give him a chance to explain, that all men stray sometimes and I acted like a judge and jury. One even said, "You really couldn't just let the pastor rot in peace." That comment cut deep, like I had somehow triggered the collapse of our marriage by throwing away a goddamn Tupperware full of rotini and betrayal. So now I'm sitting here wondering, was I too harsh? Did I jump to divorce too fast? Am I the a-hole for going nuclear the moment I confirmed the cheating instead of giving him some sort of chance at redemption? For contacting his mistress? For making him leave that night without a final say? Reddit, I need to know. Am I the a-hole? So I, 31F, have been co-managing a small boutique bakery, Sweet Crumbs, with my business partner, H, 33M, for the past 3 years. We started from scratch, just me, H, and a borrowed mixer in a cramped commercial kitchen, building Sweet Crumbs into a beloved neighborhood staple, known for creative cupcakes, macarons, and custom cakes. Our little shop survived the pandemic by pivoting to contactless pickup and at-home baking kits. And lately business has been booming. Brides, birthday parties, corporate clients, you name it, they want our confections. We hired 2 full-time bakers, A and J, a part-time barista, M, and a weekend customer service assistant, K, all of whom we treat like family. 6 months ago, H proposed expanding, opening a second location across town. I was ecstatic. Imagine another sweet shop filled with our signature pastel cupcakes under a new neon sign. H and I spent nights poring over spreadsheets, scouting real estate, sourcing equipment, and pitching investors. We agreed to split, costs 50-50 and share profits equally. If one of us dipped more into personal savings, we'd adjust later. We even doodled new logo ideas and menu items for the expansion, a cookies and cream macaron line and a rotating seasonal sparkle cupcake. It felt like our joint dream. Then 3 months ago, H got serious with his longtime girlfriend, N, 29F. N is lovely, charming, outgoing, always impeccably dressed, and recently moved in with H into his converted loft. Their relationship has been strong for years, but when N started joining our weekly strategy meetings uninvited, I began to notice tensions. I'm fine with N as a person, but she had 0 experience in baking or small business management and seemed dismissive of our hard-won bakery culture. She'd show up 30 minutes late, sip her latte while scrolling social media, then chime in with sweeping optimizations, like replacing our entire kitchen staff with contract chefs or rebranding our cozy vintage aesthetic into a sleek minimalist cafe. At first I bit my tongue, thinking maybe H just wanted to share the excitement with his partner, but by the time we finalized the lease for the new location, N had unilaterally decided on a new color palette: charcoal gray walls, concrete countertops, and industrial pendant lights. She'd ordered samples of artisan wooden tables and metal stools, despite our insistence on comfy banquette seating to match Sweet Crumbs' warm vibe. She even started posting on Sweet Crumbs' Instagram account, without our knowledge, advertising a soft launch date that conflicted with our scheduled kitchen renovation. I confronted each. Why is N changing everything? We agreed on pastels and pink neon. This charcoal grey feels so cold. H waved me off. N's designs are really in vogue. Trust me, it'll attract a new crowd. I consulted our original investor deck and customer surveys. 82% of our clientele were young families and retirees who loved our cozy cottage feel, not industrial loft vibes. But H insisted he and N knew best. Then came the profit-sharing incident. When we received our quarterly statements, I noticed H's personal account had been charged for $12,000 of launch supplies that I didn't recognize. When I asked, H said N had recommended purchasing high-end espresso equipment and an elaborate flower wall backdrop for customer selfies, worth every penny in her opinion. I was furious. We'd agreed to cap initial investment at $8,000 out of pocket. Each. Anything beyond had to be approved by both of us. N never asked me. I texted N politely, "Hey N, could you send receipts for the cafe decor? I want to reconcile the expenses." She replied curtly, "H has sent me the budget. We're all set." "No need to stress," I replied. "I'm just doing my job as co-owner." She responded with a laughing emoji and, "Don't be such a control freak." That felt dismissive. Meanwhile, at Sweet Crumb's original location, word had spread among staff that the new shop would be a relaunch rather than a second branch. A and J suddenly found themselves threatened. Were they going to lose tenure or be transferred? M and K asked if their hours would be cut. Our cohesive team was fractured by rumors of pink neon being replaced by black metal chairs. I brought it all up at our next partner meeting, just H and me in our office loft above. The bakery. H seemed distracted, checking texts from N, then said, "Look, I love you and our bakery, but N has a vision for growth. This expansion is her baby too." I felt blindsided. I said, "Then where does that leave me? I'm still on the hook for half the rent, and I have zero input on the design or budget." H sighed and snapped, "I'm tired of your negativity. If you don't like it, buy me out." My heart sank. Buying H out of his share would cost me close to $60,000. Money I don't have, given we just poured savings into new ovens and equipment. H knew this. He leaned back in his chair and said, "Think about it. You either back N and the new vision or step aside." I went home and cried to my partner, "He's basically giving me an ultimatum." My partner reminded me that H and I had a legal partnership agreement. Any major decisions needed mutual consent, and if one partner wanted out, there was a mediation clause. But that process can drag on for months. Meanwhile, N's aesthetics would dominate our brand, staff morale would plummet, and our core customers might flee. I reached out to our lawyer, who confirmed, "Unless H and I both sign off, N's unilateral. Changes are unauthorized. The expansion plans could be stalled, rent payments frozen. But legal battles are expensive and messy, exactly what I want to avoid." Last week, I walked into the bakery to find N perched at a corner table doing a photo shoot. A model influencer sampling cupcakes under dramatic spotlights. The front window displayed a sign, "Coming soon, Sweet Crumbs à la Industrial Row," in stark black lettering. Customers stared, confused. When I asked N what was happening, she looked up her phone and scoffed. "I've got this covered. Don't worry your pretty little head." Her tone felt belittling. I grabbed H's arm. "This is our shop. You're letting her hijack our brand." He shrugged. "She's building hype." I replied, "But she's alienating our team and customers." Yesterday, A almost quit before J calmed her down. They were livid that they hadn't been told the new schedule or logo. H said, exasperated, "I'll talk to them. Stop overreacting." I felt trapped. If I don't fight now, Sweet Crumbs could become a cold industrial cafe with staff turnover and broken promises. If I do fight, I risk blowing up my decades-long partnership with H and alienating him personally. Part of me wonders if I'm being inflexible. Maybe the industry is moving toward minimalism, and my pastel dreams are outdated. But I also know that Sweet Crumbs succeeded because we stayed true to our warm, whimsical identity. N's ideas feel like a corporate takeover by proxy. Yesterday, I drafted a formal letter to H and N, citing our partnership agreement and demanding that all future changes to decor branding and budgets over $1,000 require my written consent. I emailed it at 3 p.m., then hid in the walk-in freezer to calm down. At 3:17, I saw H's email reply. "Received. Will not comply. Step aside or buy me out." At 3:29, N texted the staff group chat. "Big week ahead. Please arrive early. Tomorrow for design orientation." So now I'm facing the biggest business conflict of my life: enforce our partnership rights and risk losing H as a friend and co-founder, or back down and let Sweet Crumbs morph into something I no longer recognize. I'm exhausted, heartbroken, and worried sick about our bakery's future. Reddit. Am I the a-hole for insisting on halting the expansion and demanding approval over every detail, even if it fractures my partnership and delays our dream second? Location? Or should I yield to H's and N's vision, trusting that growth sometimes means change even if it kills the cozy bakery I helped build? Am I the a-hole? So I, 29F, have been best friends with R, 30mm since college. We met in our sophomore year art history seminar and bonded over terrible cafeteria coffee and inside jokes about impressionism. After graduation, R moved back to our hometown and took a job at a local architecture firm, while I stayed in the city and built a career as a graphic designer. Despite the distance, we texted daily, visited each other for long weekends, and confided in one another about every relationship. Drama and career pivot. 6 months ago, R got engaged to T, 28F, a marketing coordinator whose bubbly personality and Instagram-perfect brunch photos quickly became a favorite among our mutual friends. Last December, R and T announced they were planning their wedding for late summer. Since R had always been my +1 for family events, and we'd never once let the other down, I assumed I'd play a big role. Maid of honor, celebratory brunches, a heartfelt toast. My partner, S, 32M, and I have even talked about hosting them at our apartment for their honeymoon night if they ever wanted a low-key post-wedding staycay. I felt honored when T asked me to be in the bridal party, and I enthusiastically said yes. Fast forward to late April, 2 months before the wedding. R and T invited me to a planning retreat weekend at their favorite lakeside cabin. The group included T's bridesmaids, 3 women I'd met only briefly, R's groomsmen, mostly guys I'd never seen sober, plus T's parents, who treated me kindly but insisted on formal introductions every time they saw me. When I arrived, Friday afternoon, work had been insane so I was frazzled. They hugged me and handed me a tote bag labeled Welcome Gals, filled with matching journals, scented candles, and a chick-lit novel. The matching gifts felt sweet, but I noticed the tote didn't have my name embroidered like the others. Instead, it just said, Bride Tribe. I tried not to read into it. The cabin was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, a large stone fireplace, and a kitchen that would make any food blogger jealous. T had organized a tight schedule, Friday evening vision board crafts, cutting up old magazines to illustrate our wedding hopes. Saturday morning, a yoga flow on the deck. Saturday afternoon cake tasting with a local pâtissier. Saturday. Night mocktail dress rehearsal in outfits we'd try on for the big day. Sunday morning lakeside photo shoot in matching robes. The bridesmaids all seemed thrilled, giggling as they compared color swatches and lip gloss shades, but I felt more like a visitor than an integral part of their bubble. At dinner Friday night, T asked me to sit between her mother and R's mom. When I complimented the baked salmon, R's mom said, "Oh, poor thing's been ravenous, haven't you, dear?" I realized she meant me, but T quickly jumped in. "Yes, she's been so busy with work. She's barely had time to eat. Isn't that right, G?" The expected response was that I'd had a hard week, but I chose honesty. Honestly, I'm tired. I've been working late hours to meet a major client deadline, but I'm thrilled to be here this weekend. I thought that would be acceptable. Instead, T's mum nodded sympathetically, while T shot me a look that said, "You should be more grateful for this break." I tried to laugh it off, but the tension was palpable. Saturday morning's yoga was pleasant until T handed us identical pastel yoga pants. Everyone held theirs up to admire the color, while mine was noticeably a shade darker, more gray than lavender. I looked up. The tote bag I carried had contained 2 pairs of lavender pants, but when I opened them, the stitching on mine read, "Guest." I slipped out of the group, feigning bathroom duty, and texted S, asking if I was overreacting. He said I should mention it gently, but I didn't want to cause a scene. At cake tasting, I politely sampled each flavor, but felt isolated when the other bridesmaids passed around napkins printed with their names and the wedding date in calligraphy. Mine read only "Wedding Guest." I swallowed disappointment and focused on the sugar high. Later, as we tried on dresses, I noticed T texting behind a screen. "These gowns are for the bridal party only. I can get you a discounted price." But you'll need to cover it yourself. My heart sank. When I asked if my name was on the invitations, I'd RSVP'd months ago, T responded, "It's a +1 invitation, just like everyone else's partner." S had never been mentioned as my guest, and I wasn't sure why. By Saturday evening, I felt bruised. I slipped out to the deck to catch my breath, where R found me quietly staring at the lake. He hugged me, saying, "I'm so sorry. I know T has been intense about details." I whispered, "I feel like a trophy friend, but I'm not even allowed to play the part." He sighed. "She's worried about the perfect aesthetic for her Instagram following, and honestly, she thought it'd be easier to exclude extras." I asked, "Extras? My name's still on the invite, right?" He hesitated. "Sort of. You're invited as G's +1. It hit me that in T's mind, I'd been reduced to a generic bracket, friend of the bride, not actual person. I didn't sleep much that night. S called to check in around midnight. I burst into tears, explaining how sidelined I felt. He reminded me that it was her wedding, but that R still cared about me. I agreed to stick it out and represent the bridal party, in spirit, even if I wasn't treated like one. Sunday morning's photo shoot was a fiasco. We all wore matching lace robes, but mine was a size small, tight across the shoulders and chest, while everyone else had robes that draped elegantly. When I pointed it out, T said, "Must have been a packing mix-up. Wear it anyway." Then the photographer directed us to cluster in a heart shape. I squeezed in, trying to hide my discomfort, but the sides of the robe kept hiking up. The final straw came when T's maid of honor looked at me and whispered, "Did G ask for her own little special extras?" I realized I was the only one who hadn't been asked for blackout dates, welcome bag preferences, or gift registry clarifications. I was a nameless body to fill space in photos. After brunch, I quietly packed my things, letting the group think I was stepping outside for fresh air. Instead, I left the cabin altogether, drove back to my apartment and texted R, "I'm sorry, but this weekend was miserable. I don't want to be a guest if I'm not part of the party." He called immediately, agitated. "T and I worked so hard on this, and you left without saying goodbye. You've insulted her family, upset the entire weekend's vibe, and you're making me choose between my fiancé and my best friend." I felt my chest tighten. I tried to explain my feelings. Being demoted from maid of honor to lonely +1 felt hurtful, but he cut me off. "This weekend was for T. She didn't ask you to be here. You RSVP'd as a guest, that's it." That afternoon, I messaged T, "I'm sorry if I hurt anyone. I hope the rest of your weekend goes well." She replied, "No hard feelings. Next time, check the invite details. Love you." And she blocked me in the group chat. R has since stopped answering my calls, and mutual friends are tiptoeing around me at social gatherings, afraid to take sides. I feel betrayed and hurt, but I also wonder if I overreacted, if I should have just been grateful for any role, even a minor one, in my best friend's wedding. Now I'm debating whether I should tell R that unless he apologizes and acknowledges that I'm more than some anonymous +1, our friendship will have to change. Conversely, maybe I should apologize for abandoning the weekend and accept that T's wedding aesthetic simply didn't include me in a prominent way. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for walking out on my best friend's wedding planning weekend because I felt unappreciated and excluded? Or should I have kept quiet, sucked it up for his sake, and endured being treated like a wedding guest rather than his maid of honor? Am I the a-hole? So I, 35F, grew up in a small lakeside town with my younger brother, J, 32M. Our grandparents owned a weathered little cottage on the shore, paint peeling a gentle seafoam green, wooden stairs creaking under every step, and a wraparound porch where I spent countless summers reading novels while Jay and his friends swam bare-chested until dusk. When Grandma passed away last spring at 87, my parents and I discovered in her safe a will she'd drafted 5 years earlier. The cottage was to be inherited equally by Jay and me under one condition, that neither of us sell it, but keep it, as our shared childhood retreat for our families. We were both surprised by this stipulation, but honored it. Within weeks of the reading, Jay and I took the first turn. My husband, C, and our 2 toddlers, E, 6, and R, 4, stayed for a long weekend. We swept dusty floors, stocked the pantry with cereal and fresh milk, and spent smoky evenings roasting marshmallows over the outdoor fire pit, just like Grandma would have. We repaired the rickety rowboat, repainted chipped window frames, and left the walls feeling brighter than they had in decades. I texted Jay, "Can't wait for you guys, the kids already love it." He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and "See you in August." Fast forward 3 months and Jay's trip weekend arrived. I sent him my grocery list, loads of coffee, breakfast burritos, marshmallow forks, and my paint sample choices for the guest bedroom, soft dove grey or sage green. Jay texted back, "Surprise, I'm not alone. I'm bringing my fiancée Elle and her roommate M. Hope, that's okay." I was blindsided. The will's language said nothing about guests, but I'd assumed that as co-owners we'd coordinate stays one family at a time and occasionally host close family or friends in small numbers. 4 adults and no kids plus an extra roommate. That felt like too many bodies to cram into our modest 2-bedroom cottage. We'd slept on floors as kids, sure, but that was our childhood. Now there are families to consider. I called Jay, hoping my tone was casual. "Hey Jay, so about the guest list, remember the will mentioned we'd keep it as a family retreat? I was thinking you and Elle, maybe the kids if she has them someday, or one friend over, but 4 adults plus M might be tight. The kitchen table only seats 6 comfortably, and there's 1 bathroom." He sighed. I talked to Elle. This was an agreement between me and LM is her best friend, and she needs a place to crash. We've been subletting her an Airbnb for months, but it's expensive. I thought since it's summer, might as well bring her along. I could practically hear him shrug through the phone. "I get it," I said, "but it's our property. You can't just unilaterally decide extras. I want to accommodate you guys, but we need a plan." He snapped, "You always have to be controlling. Grandma would want people who love her there. To make memories, not force a seating chart." Click. He hung up. I felt my cheeks flush. I mulled it over and texted Elle directly. "Hi Elle, I'm Jay's sister. Just checking if we can chat about the cottage arrangements before you arrive." She responded curtly, "Sure, but Jay assured me it was fine. You don't have to worry. That night I sat with C. He's just angry with me because I said we need to communicate about guests." C sighed. "Maybe let it go this once? I mean, it's summer. If you've got the space, they can all stay." But I couldn't let it go. I pictured L and M sprawling on the pull-out couch, towels dripping through the hardwood, shampoo bottles crowding the sink. I worried about wear and tear on the place Jay and I had promised Grandma we'd preserve. The next morning, I woke at dawn and drove to the cottage myself. Mission: inspect and set expectations in person. I brushed my hands on cut-off jeans and bustled inside. Air smelled faintly of must and coffee grounds. I replaced a jar of instant coffee with fresh beans, folded flour sacks into neat dishcloths, and left a note on the table. "Looking forward to seeing you both. Please keep the cottage tidy. No more than 1 guest per person, and leave the linens on the beds." As 4 hours later, I caught the last ferry back home and noticed a barrage of missed calls and texts from Jay. "What is this note?" "Stop playing games. L is offended." And from L, "You are so passive-aggressive. This is our vacation." I called Jay again. He was furious. "Why are you policing my future wife? You're making her uncomfortable." I tried to explain the will, the space constraints, the need to treat it as shared property, but he cut me off. "Everything's always a battle with you. Grandma's dead. This cottage is mine now, too." I realized then that this was bigger than a weekend trip. It was about boundaries, respect, and legacy. Jay didn't see us as co-owners. He saw a booty of family inheritance to be used however he pleased. That afternoon, C and I drafted an email to L and Jay, clarifying that co-ownership meant joint decisions on guests, improvements, and maintenance. We'd hire cleaners after each stay. Any unauthorized renovations or extra long stays would require both our agreements. We offered to cover cleaning costs ourselves for this visit, if they trimmed the guest list to just L. They replied with an ultimatum. Either we accepted 4 guests or they wouldn't come at all, and Jay threatened to invite his college buddies. Instead, the kids would miss out on seeing their uncle, who'd promised to teach them to fish, and tensions were skyrocketing. That night, I lost sleep. I pictured E and R disappointed when they learned that their uncle would skip their favorite ice cream run at the Lakeside General Store. I pictured Jay's underwhelming text about cancelled plans, and I worried about my parents, who would be crushed if the siblings were at war over Grandma's cottage. The following morning, I woke to more angry messages and a fresh complication. Dell had posted a photo on social media showing the cottage interior. Newly installed string lights, a mini-bar cart with liquor bottles, and teeny succulents lining the windowsills. Apparently, Jay had agreed to let Elle decorate however she liked. My heart sank. They were treating it like a hotel, not our shared heritage. I texted Elle, "Might you please remove the succulents and let's talk before you change anything further?" She replied, "This is such a girl boss move, but fine." She snapped the plants into the sink, leaving soil on the hardwood. I couldn't sit still. I texted Jay, "We need to discuss this. You can't redecorate without my okay. The will is clear." He replied, "If you're going to be this controlling, maybe you should just buy me out." I swallowed. Buying him out, a third of the property. Value, which in that lakeside market was astronomical. I didn't have that kind of cash, and the bank wouldn't lend me a lump sum without his cooperation. Even if I did somehow manage it, what about the family finances? He knew his leverage. We reached an impasse. Day one of their visit ended with grace, wine on the porch, laughter at fishing stories, but day two, the cracks widened. Elle borrowed my favorite flannel shirt without asking, stained it with barbecue sauce and left it balled up on a chair. Jay spilled red wine on the cream rug beneath the coffee table and blamed the kids. I caught Em in the laundry room using ammonia on the old wood floors. No noxious chemicals rule clearly stated in the care guide sitting on the fridge. I confronted them both in a voice that trembled with frustration. "You're wrecking everything. This place is fragile. Grandma spent decades caring for every slat of siding. I'm not your hotel manager, I'm your sister-in-law and co-owner, and you're ignoring me." Jay replied, "We're family. Why are you making everything so hard?" Elle rolled her eyes. "Maybe you're not as simple and sweet as you pretend." Em scowled. I felt my pulse spike. That night I drafted an email to our parents, explaining the situation and asking them to mediate. I didn't want to escalate, but didn't know what else to do. My mom called in tears, begging for calm. My dad suggested, "I let Jay have his fun and deal with the cottage later. I'm exhausted emotionally and physically." My husband says I should apologize for my tone, but I can't apologize for wanting to protect what Grandma entrusted us with. Jay says I should lighten up and let Elle make memories here like we did, but I watch in horror as our childhood home is being treated like a pop-up inn. No shoes sign ignored, furniture shifted haphazardly, photos of Grandma moved to the attic to make space for Elle's selfie mirror. At this point, Jay and Elle are torn between enjoying a lakeside getaway and resenting me for ruining their vacation. Em looks uncomfortable. The kids haven't even unpacked because their uncle and aunt keep arguing. I don't know if I should insist they leave early, demand a legal agreement to enforce the will's terms, or back down and trust that they'll respect the cottage once they feel comfortable. I love Jay and I like Elle. Elle is kind and funny when she's not bossy, but they've shown blatant disregard for our agreement and Grandma's legacy. I don't want the cottage to become a battleground, but I also can't sit by and watch it be treated like a rental property. Am I the a-hole for enforcing the co-ownership rules so strictly that I'm risking my relationship with my brother and his fiancée? Should I take the loss and let them have their fun, hoping they'll shape up over time? Or am I justified in standing my ground to honor Grandma's wishes, even if it means tension and hurt feelings now? Am I the a-hole? So I, 35F, have been running a small wedding videography business, Everlasting Frames, for the past 8 years. I started right out of college with a mid-range camera my parents gifted me and a passion for telling people's stories. Over time, I invested in top-of-the-line gear, built a portfolio of over 120 weddings, and even taught videography workshops on the side. My clients often praise me for being professional yet unobtrusive, capturing candid moments rather than stiff, staged shots. Weddings are my favorite work. I love the rush of marriage day energy, the way every family dynamic unfolds on camera. Last November, my college best friend Maya, 36F, messaged me. She'd finally set a date to marry her fiancé Ethan, 37mm, and she wanted me to film it. I was ecstatic. It would be my chance to give Maya special treatment, maybe create a highlight reel that felt like a mini documentary of our friendship, as well as her wedding. Maya and I had gone through heartbreaks together, road tripped across the country, and spent countless late nights planning dream weddings we joked we'd throw each other one day. Now the day was real. She wanted an autumn ceremony at her grandparents' 19th century barn, nestled on 5 acres of forest in upstate New York, with rustic chandeliers, mason jar centerpieces, and a live folk band. She asked if I could do an engagement film, 2 full days of coverage on the wedding day, and a love story interview segment. Naturally, I said yes, and arranged my schedule to give her the best price I ever offered a friend. We signed a contract in early December. I required a 30% deposit. She paid it immediately. Then in January, she asked me to upgrade to a drone for aerial shots and to film rehearsal dinner festivities at her parents' country club the night before. We amended the contract, she sent another 20% deposit, and I began planning. In February, I traveled to the venue for a scouting visit, mapping sunset angles and testing signal strength for wireless mics. I created a shot list. Maya practicing her vows in a sunlit meadow, Ethan seeing her in her dress for the first time, grandparents dancing to fiddles under string lights. Everything felt perfect until rehearsal dinner. On the evening of Friday, October 24th, I arrived at the country club. I parked, unloaded my camera bag, and was greeted by Maya's mother, Linda. I introduced myself and showed her my videographer badge. She frowned. "Maya told me you'd be here at 6, she said. "We start at 5. I showed my call sheet 6 p.m. Call time for videographer, 5 p.m. for catering staff, 4 p.m. for DJ setup. I'd coordinated with Maya's wedding planner, Felix. He arrived then, flustered, and whispered to me, "Sorry, Linda insists events start an hour earlier." "Think you can roll?" I sighed but nodded, set up my camera on a tripod near the head table and tested audio levels. Then Linda reappeared with the maid of honor, Maya's younger sister, Nina, 28F. She eyed my tripod. "Is this going to be in the way? We need that space for the photo booth." I said the videographer area was essential for capturing speeches. Nina rolled her eyes and said, "Whatever, but please don't block Aunt Karen's line of sight." Aunt Karen, I discovered, was Maya's great-aunt, who'd once danced a jig at her own wedding for 3 hours. She was perched at the head table wearing a feathered fascinator and glaring at me between sips of Chardonnay. I set up a second camera near the bandstand, and Nina shot me a pointed look. "Don't film my dance unless you crop me out." Then she sashayed off. By the time dinner started at 5:15 p.m., I'd already been scolded twice for looming and getting too close to family. During the rehearsal speeches, I captured footage of Maya's toast to Ethan, her voice quivering with tears. I panned to catch Ethan wiping a tear, the table of bridesmaids giggling, and then Aunt Karen muttering, "That dress is too low cut. Shame on her." Instead of focusing on that, I held the shot on Maya, unbothered. After the dinner, I quickly gathered my gear to pack up, but Nina intercepted me. "Can I see what you got?" she demanded, pulling up my camera display. I politely declined. Footage review was part of post-production, and she pouted, "Fine, be mysterious." That night, I stayed at a nearby bed and breakfast. I texted Maya, "Rehearsal footage secured, batteries recharged, see you tomorrow." At 10 a.m. for portraits, she replied, "Thanks. Mum and Nina had a lot of ideas. They want you to film all of Grandpa's stories at breakfast." I'd never planned to film the family breakfast, but she'd asked for candid coverage, so I adjusted my schedule. Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m., I arrived at the barn's adjoining farmhouse kitchen. Maya's grandparents sat sipping tea at a lace-covered table. Linda hovered by the stove overseeing scrambled eggs. As I set up a small gimbal to capture interviews, Nina wandered in with her boyfriend, Carter, and declared, "I'm not doing this. Don't film me at breakfast, I'm a mess." I pointed out that it was a family interview segment everyone had agreed to. She stomped to the table, elbowed Grandpa's arm, and whispered, "Do you really want her filming you?" Grandpa looked confused. I finally told Nina, "If you don't want on camera, just step aside, but don't ruin it for others." She sneered, "Fine," and left, stomping through the foyer. By 10 a.m., I'd captured about 10 minutes of interviews. Grandpa recounting meeting Grandma at a barn dance in 1952, Grandma describing the secret apple pie recipe, and a montage of Maya's childhood pictures taped on the wall. I moved outside for couple portraits, Maya in a lace gown, Ethan in suspenders, the golden leaves turning behind them. As I guided them into poses, I felt a shadow and turned to see Nina standing behind my light stand, yelling, "Watch your straps, Mom's coming." She pointed her phone at them for selfies. I said firmly, "Please step out of frame," and she huffed and stormed off. From 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., I switched between drone shots of the barn's red roof, candid footage of bridesmaids, except Nina, who refused any frame, and set up at the ceremony arch by 3:30 p.m. Just before family arrived, Nina grabbed me. "Don't film me walking down the aisle." I told her that since she had an official role as maid of honor, her processional was part of the coverage. She crossed her arms. "I'll walk 10 paces behind. If you zoom on me, I'll report you to your guild." Guild? I'd never heard that threat before. I nodded and backed away. The ceremony began at 4 p.m. Maya walked down the aisle with her father, tears sparkling. Ethan half turned to see her. I captured every angle, wide shots, close-ups, over the shoulder. Nina appeared standing far back. No zoom needed. When Maya said her personalized vows, "Ethan, you make my chaos beautiful," I cut to tears. In the crowd, weddings are emotional, but then Aunt Karen gasped and shouted, "She's dropping the F-bomb," referring to Maya's line, "I can't wait to fucks up the dance floor with you." The microphone had caught her whispered, "Fuck," right before she said it aloud. For one horrible second, the entire barn froze. Kids stared. Linda covered her ears. I kept filming, unflinching, but afterward Maya's dad pulled me aside and hissed, "That was way too much glimpse into our private moment." I winced. Maya had asked for all uncut audio. After the ceremony cocktail hour began, I used a stabilizer to glide through the crowd, capturing grandparents hugging, siblings high-fiving, and the caterer setting up a charcuterie table. But midway through, Nina grabbed my arm. "Stop filming, someone spilled wine on my dress and I need to fix it." She dragged me behind a pillar and shoved her phone in my face. "If I'm in the background of any shot, I'll sue. You're harassing me." I tried to remain calm. "I promise I'm not targeting you. I'm capturing the event. You make one small ask and I'll blur you in post if I have to." She snatched her phone, spit, "Don't bother." By 6 p.m. I was exhausted. I'd been on my feet for 10 hours, carried gear over muddy ground, and fielded more complaints from Nina than I had compliments. I found Maya dancing with her grandmother to the folk band's fiddle tune and captured that timeless shot. Then I moved to the reception inside the barn. Greenery hung from beams, Edison bulbs glowed overhead. I set up my second videographer, James, to capture the band's performance and heard him whisper, "Why's Nina off limits? She's all over the dance floor." I shrugged. I couldn't risk a lawsuit from a furious maid of honor. When speeches started at 7:30 p.m., I watched Linda corner me. She whispered, "I'm paying extra for you. I expect wedding highlights by midnight." The cake cutting was scheduled at 8 p.m., so I explained my timeline. Raw footage to me by Tuesday, edited highlight video by the following Sunday. She said, "If you don't deliver by tomorrow, we're withholding final payment." That final payment was 50% of the total. Enough to cover my equipment costs. I nodded, suppressing panic. Then dinner started, and I switched to my third camera to get wide shots of the long tables. Nina appeared at my side again, clutching her wine-stained dress. "Move your feet. I need to get by." I said, "I'm sorry, could you just walk behind me?" She glared and shoved past, spilling wine on James. He cursed at her and moved sideways. She yanked him by the shoulder. "This is unacceptable. Remove the footage of me or I'll get my lawyer." I took a deep breath and said firmly, "All. Right? I'll edit you out of the highlights. I'm here to make Maya's day perfect. Please let me do my job." She smirked and stalked off. A week later, I did blur Nina in the teaser reel. But unbeknownst to me, she still launched a legal threat via email, demanding a full refund and all raw footage destroyed, claiming invasion of privacy. Maya called me 2 days after the wedding. Her voice was shaky. "People have been asking why there's no footage of Nina. Mom says you lied about her." I tried to explain. She refused to be filmed. She threatened lawsuits if I tried. Maya snapped. She was upset. Her future mother-in-law thought she looked fat, that's all. I said, "I'm sorry you're caught in the middle." She hung up. Since then, she's been distant. No calls, no texts. Meanwhile, I've received 3 messages from Nina's lawyer demanding raw footage and threatening defamation claims because I didn't capture her authentic reaction to being ignored by family members on camera. Linda has withheld my final payment. Ethan's mother has asked me to remove certain shots of Aunt Karen's critical look during the vows. Every family member seems to want something redacted or removed. I feel trapped. I bust my ass to capture every moment respectfully, yet one person's refusal to participate is now risking my entire deposit. I'm facing potential legal action, and I may need to sue Maya's family for breach of contract if they don't pay. I understand Nina's position. She didn't want unflattering footage, but her demands now threaten my livelihood. Maya hasn't stuck up for me. She's ghosted me entirely. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for enforcing my contract that all participants must consent to filming and refusing to reshoot footage or refund because one person didn't want to be on camera? Am I the a-hole for blurring Nina in the highlights, even though it made Maya's wedding film imperfect? Should I have stopped filming entirely when the maid of honor objected? Or am I justified in standing my ground, protecting my business, and delivering the footage that at least her bride and groom wanted? Am I the a-hole? So I, 27F, have been roommates with my best friend Erin, 27F, for 3 years in a spacious 2-bedroom apartment downtown. We met at university, bonded over late-night study sessions, and vowed to live together once we graduated. Our lease runs through next June, but 3 months ago I accepted a transfer to a new department at my firm, one that's in another city an hour away. The job is a huge promotion and a rare opportunity I couldn't pass up, but it meant commuting 3 times a week and working odd hours. I discussed it with Erin in detail before accepting. She was supportive, proud even, and encouraged me to seize it. I thought we both knew the deal. I'd be working harder, commuting more, and paying a slightly smaller share of rent in exchange for the higher paycheck. She'd have more quiet during the week, but cover a little more of the bills. Everything was fine at first. I rearranged my schedule, rented an office locker near the new city for supplies, and adjusted our chore chart. I'd keep evenings free on my in-town nights for making dinner and cleaning, and Erin would handle most. Kitchen cleanup on my commute days. I updated our shared calendar, set auto-reminders, and even made a spreadsheet to track our contributions toward utilities, groceries, and rent. Erin thanked me for the organization and said she'd start doing the dishes on Mondays and Thursdays, when I'd be away. Then last month, Erin started complaining. It began with small comments. I had to do 3 loads of laundry this week instead of 2, or I cooked dinner on Monday and Thursday, but you're always gone by 5:30. I pointed out that my schedule was front-loaded. I worked 4 late evenings in a row, then had 3 days at home to help catch up. She said she'd thought it would be more evenly spread. I explained again how my new job's roster worked. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in the other city until 8 p.m. Wednesdays, I start at 7 a.m. Fridays, I leave at 6. She sighed and said she felt like my work wife. Next, she asked me to cover her half of a weekend brunch we'd planned with friends because I'd made more money this month. I said I was still paying my agreed share of rent and bills and splitting brunch. With our other 2 roommates, who aren't on my new schedule, made no sense. She accused me of being faceless paycheck and not even living here anymore. I reminded her that I'd moved less than 20 miles and was still home every other evening. Then things got worse. 2 weeks ago, I came home late from the city office around 10 p.m., to find the apartment in disarray. Dirty dishes piled in the sink, the living room couch strewn with her clothes, and an empty milk carton left on the counter. I texted her, "Hey, I'll clean in the morning, had a long day." She texted back, "You said that last week, I can't keep living like this." I slept on the couch in our guest room because I was so upset. The next morning, I confronted her calmly over coffee. "I'm sorry you're frustrated. Let's go over the chore chart again." Instead, she exploded, "You're never here, you never help, and I'm sick of your bullet point spreadsheets." I thought we were friends. I was stunned. I asked, "If you wanted changes, could you have just said?" She snapped, "You only listen to Excel, not actual people." I tried to apologize, but she shut me down. That weekend, we hosted a housewarming barbecue for our new neighbor, and Erin refused to help set up. She stood inside on her phone. When I asked her to bring out more chairs, she said, "I have plans, I have to leave." I reminded her she'd agreed to be hostess co-lead during my commute days. She rolled her eyes and walked into her room. Guests arrived, struggled to find seating, and one ended up eating standing in the hallway. I felt humiliated. Guests whispered, "Is Erin okay?" After everyone left, Erin texted me, "We need to talk." She came out in sweatpants and said, "I can't live with someone who treats me like a roommate instead of a friend. You're gone more than you're here, and when you are here, you're on your phone or laptop." I pointed out I still attended. Our weekly movie night, cooked half the dinners, and our rent spreadsheet was always up to date, so we'd never miss a payment. She retorted, "Money isn't all. Connection is. Where are you emotionally?" That stung. I tried to explain how my promotion was temporary, and that my goal was to transfer permanently into the city division within a year, then downgrading my commute. I reminded her how I'd covered her last week when she was sick, bought groceries and made soup. She said, "That's not the same, and now you'll have to make more soup on a train." We argued, voices raised, until our downstairs neighbor pounded on the ceiling. I stormed out to the hallway to calm down. When I returned, Erin had packed a suitcase. She told me she'd called my old roommate from college, Claire, and offered her my room. She said I could have the guest room when I came home, but she didn't want to live with me anymore. My heart sank. I didn't realize she was that upset. I begged her to at least let me stay until June and figure things out, but she was resolute. People change, living situations change, and so do friendships. You clearly don't need this room, take it or leave it. That was 5 days ago. Since then, I've been crashing on my parents' couch 3 nights a week and paying for a storage unit for my work gear. Our landlord is pressuring me to find a replacement roommate, or pay Erin's share too. Claire accepted the room but wants to move in only if Erin and I reconcile first. Erin insists there's nothing to reconcile. Our living agreement is dead, because our friendship is dead. I feel betrayed, guilty, and heartbroken. I thought I was honoring our friendship by being transparent about schedules and money. I didn't realize Erin expected emotional check-ins or constant in-person presence. I assumed our weekly calls and texts counted. My partner says Erin overreacted, and I did everything I could. But Erin's brother told me she's been complaining for weeks to her family about my ghosting. Now I'm scrambling to either buy out Erin's portion of the lease, which would cost me over $3,000, or find someone else, someone who doesn't need quiet evenings and won't mind a half-occupied room. I have to decide by Friday or pay double rent. Meanwhile, Erin has blocked me on social media and refuses to return calls about dividing our shared deposit. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for managing our chore chart, rent spreadsheet and schedules so precisely, at the expense of spontaneity and friend time? Should I have treated her more like a roommate and less like a sister, or is she unreasonable for expecting me to ignore a once-in-a-lifetime career opportunity and keep our dynamic exactly as it was 3 months ago? Am I the a-hole